Greetings. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate all of your time. My name is Matt Bain, and I'm going to be presenting for you today on behalf of our team here at JB&A. I am also joined by Laura Genoway from our marketing department, as well as Jeremy Strootman from our Northeast Territory. They're going to help answer some questions at the end of this webinar for everyone. So continually, JB&A tries to provide resources like this webinar to help our resellers and integrators, as well as end users, get a deeper look into the functionality of our products. That being said, should you have any questions during the course of this webinar, you may enter them in the chat dialog that should be on the side of your screen, and we will answer all of your questions at the conclusion of the presentation, time permitting. The presentation should be short and should be in the neighborhood of about 25 minutes. And we have blocked off an additional half an hour for questions and answers. So on the bottom of the slide, you'll also find our contact information. If you have more specific questions, we'd be happy to help you. We have a large audience here today, which is great, and many of you might be wondering who JB&A is. So at JB&A, we pride ourselves in being a true technology partner. We've been servicing the vendor and reseller channel throughout North America since 1996. And our company is a very unique mix of a consultant, channel partner, solutions provider, and distributor. We specialize in streaming, IP video, medical, digital signage, post, broadcast, and pro AV markets. JB&A is dedicated to bringing the latest technology to market. We're staffed by experts in the field of video technology and workflows, including digital signage, digital asset management, streaming, encoding, transcoding, video conferencing, and all forms of video distribution. When you work with the JB&A team, you're working with experts in all forms of video management. Our team is excellent. They're all experts in their field. Beyond that, they're really great people to work with. You'll see our territories listed here on this map. If you need information or aren't sure who to contact, always feel free to call our home office or send us an email. CatDV is extremely robust and flexible, and JB&A is here to answer any of your specific questions regarding its deployment in your particular scenario. As I mentioned, the staff here at JB&A are experts. We're really experts in combining multiple products to create an entire solution. For those of you who have chatted with us about CatDV in the past, I'm sure you've heard us mention our asset management ecosystem. It consists of multiple products, including storage and archiving. These products can all be integrated in very unique ways, but they can also be deployed as standalone pieces to enhance or augment existing systems. And that's what we're going to focus on today with CatDV. CatDV is really a robust tool for any storage scenario. We represent incredible shared storage and archiving products, but we are often asked how CatDV integrates with other systems that customers might already own, which is why today we've chosen to do a webinar exclusively on how CatDV handles storage devices. My main goal for you is to have a clearer understanding of how CatDV can manage, access, and protect your content regardless of the storage device that it lives on. CatDV is really a suite of applications. We have the client, the server, and the worker node. The combination of these allow for users to access their content, enforce best practices, and automate their workflows. The platform has a long track record of making innovative software that makes our lives in the media world much easier. And I've listed the latest version releases here for the main components that we'll be talking about. Speaking of CatDV's components, I'd also like to take this opportunity to lay out the three main categories of CatDV products. First, we have the standalone. We also have workgroup server as well as the enterprise server. The standalone client is just that. It works great in a standalone environment. The next step up is to the workgroup server. And finally, if you're looking for user access controls, customizable user groups, and web clients, then we'd be talking about the enterprise server. Today I'm going to focus on that enterprise server as it is our most widely requested platform. If you need more information as to which one is right for you, the CatDV website does a great job explaining the differences. But at any time, if you need further assistance, JB&A is always here. If you need help, go ahead and give us a call. So CatDV Server has the ability to run on not only the MySQL database, but as well as Microsoft SQL Server and Oracle. And our client application can be deployed to run on both Windows and Mac OS. It can do both of that at the same time. Mixed environments are very common in CatDV deployments. CatDV is an incredibly flexible solution. It not only allows access to files, but it also gives you the ability to integrate third-party products, such as NLEs, into storage management workflows. So this graphic that you're looking at here really kind of encompasses everything that can be done inside of CatDV. It's extremely robust. CatDV's inherent functionality allows for users to create customized workflows. You can create those workflows around P2, XDCAM, tape-based assets, SD, LTO, NAS, and SAN devices. If your content lives on it, CatDV can most likely work with it. File-based workflows can be very complex when using multiple storage types, different codecs, and then throwing in NLEs into the mix. But those complexities are really only compounded by larger work groups. The need for remote file access, and the time constraints faced by media professionals. So CatDV is the tool that's going to make sense out of all those confusing systems. It's going to allow you to enforce best practices and give users a unified access point for all of their files. If you look at CatDV's brief user list that's here, it's incredible to see the diversity in their businesses. NASCAR, Primerica, Stanford, Gateway Church, Harley-Davidson. Not only are their business models different, but their workflows are extremely unique. They each have different types of storage, different networks, completely unique search terms. CatDV's architecture allows it to be versatile to address almost every workflow out there. So it doesn't matter what type of company you are or what you do, CatDV is really a tool that you can use. At JB&A, we often talk about our MAP solution, which is managing access and protection. I'd start today with the protection side of things, but the PAM solution just isn't quite as catchy as MAP, so I'm going to start with management. So I want to take a look at how CatDV is used to manage. Later, we're going to see how users are then able to access their content in ways and places that just aren't possible without CatDV. And finally, how our content is protected. At its most basic level, CatDV is just creating links to my files. When installing CatDV, I tell it where my files live, and that is most likely multiple places. This is done in the User Preferences pane in the Media Search Paths section that's shown here. I can even have separate locations for web proxies and in-house proxies across several drives. CatDV can even accept proxies prior to the high-res being ingested. That functionality can significantly reduce the time someone spends getting their content up to the servers and searchable. A little later, I'll show you more of the worker node and watch folders, which can really play traffic cop and direct files from other locations to their final destination. Using search paths and watch folders is a great way to manage multiple ingest points and ensure all content and users are adhering to best practices. On the last slide, I mentioned proxy paths. So CatDV has the ability to create proxies of files, and we can also store them in a separate location from our high-res. This allows users to be able to quickly preview content in a lower res version. Here you're going to see the web proxy location setting that's found in the CatDV server configuration menu. This is the path mapping for my web browser clients. But like I mentioned, we can use separate locations for proxies presented on the LAN or stream to the installed client. Another main functionality of how CatDV handles proxies is that I can work completely from my proxies, and any tag that I'm making to those proxies is then reassociated with its original high-res. So if I'm a remote employee that only has access to proxies, any of the tagging that I do will be shown on the associated high-res clip for anybody else that's accessing that content. That being said, CatDV also allows organizations to present different people with unique proxy paths based on their location or their access to storage devices. So this is a really robust way to determine who is going to have access to what, and we can start to make those decisions based on bandwidth issues or overall network implications that our install might have. So when we get into the proxies, there's several different ways to create proxies. We can set those parameters for that proxy creation in this user preferences pane right here under proxies and thumbnails. It's also noteworthy to mention that we can actually, so if your organization is already using a transcoding system that can generate proxies, we can use those proxies inside of CatDV as well. Now, I mentioned earlier the worker node. The worker node is where CatDV takes all of these topics that we've just discussed, and it goes a giant leap forward. It enables everything that we talked about to happen as an automation. I can set up watch actions based on folders, files, or metadata. Worker node is often used to monitor multiple file folders throughout my network for new media. When new media is present, it is automatically ingested into CatDV. From that point, it could automatically tag metadata, make a proxy, and assign access privileges. So this is a way that we can really unify the ingest of my content through CatDV. But it can also automate things like file movement, processing, and access to files. While the worker node is an option to CatDV, it is one of the most efficient ways to manage content and storage devices. And it pays for itself many times over with your savings of man hours. Another great example of using worker node to manage multiple storage devices is in the case of one of our television networks using the product. Before CatDV, coordinating files to be shared between more than 10 stations in different states was beyond challenging for them. Each station had their own SAN and NAS devices along with archiving. When a national news story hit, getting the content from one of the stations and distributing it out to all the others was a daunting task. Through somewhat simple worker node triggers and the web client, each station with CatDV can now log into everybody else's storage systems, find the clips that they need, and a one-button trigger can automate an FTP of the files to be sent where they need them. This is a drastic increase in efficiency for them. And we're talking about news organizations, time is money. You know, there is a rush to get their story first, and CatDV really assists them in being able to do so. Now, when we get into metadata of our files, having customized metadata fields is really where CatDV is going to start to personalize the contents of your storage devices. I'm not limited to the number of fields I can track or create. I can even enforce required fields. So required fields will force users to enter in information that is deemed required. This way you can ensure all necessary data is being entered. Metadata fields can be created in numerous ways, and we really want to create metadata fields to reflect the type of data that they are tracking. These two can be tied into automation processes. If I'm a sports team, I can have a field with a drop-down list of all my players by year and position. Corporations might want to have a drop-down list of their products. Broadcasters could use a checkbox to designate content as explicit. And production teams might just want plain text fields to pass along notes during a clip's lifecycle. This can all be done with CatDV. It gives users an immeasurable amount of control over their storage systems, and more times than not, the user is completely unaware that these complex processes are happening in the background. If you look there, I circled the metadata fields. Those are all customizable. I can create as many tabs as well as the fields within those tabs. Those can also change by the user that logs in. So I can present people with very specific metadata fields for the job that they do. So now we've covered a bit of the back-end management of CatDV, but now I want to actually see how users are able to access their content that's living throughout their storage devices. When content is spread across multiple devices, file paths are getting longer and longer. Having a tool that's going to unify our search is a benefit that makes a tremendous difference. users become much more efficient right out of the gate with CatDV. CatDV has the ability to tag any of your files with metadata for quick and accurate retrieval, no matter where they are, even if they are offline. That being said, CatDV also does not have limitations on file types. If my OS can recognize it as a file, CatDV will be able to manage it. From a simple keyword search like this one up here for grapes, CatDV has now returned results for all of my content that has a tag of grapes anywhere in it. All of my files' metadata is now instantly searchable. But I can also search in other ways as well, and I'll show you that right now. So over there on the left-hand side of the screen, you're going to see our filter section. Using smart folders, I can create a logical folder based on user-defined criteria. And filters also allow me the ability to search only specific metadata fields quickly and easily. So you'll see that underneath smart folders, I have one that is called Grapes1. Basically, that smart filter could be filtering out all of my content and dumping any content that has anything to do with grapes into that smart folder. You'll also see underneath automatic grouping, there are several different metadata fields. Basically, I can use that to quickly and easily jump to a specific metadata field's results. So if I wanted to find every clip that was created in 2010, I could just hit the 2010 button, and that is instantly filtering out all of my content from 2010. I can also add filter upon filter. So if I wanted to find all of my 2010 clips that are HDV and are created by a specific user, I can easily do that as well. Now, I also have the ability to do a much more robust search. And to do that, I can use the remote query function. The remote query function allows for logic to be applied to multiple search terms. So we're basically using if-then statements. And if-then statements are incredibly useful to find that needle in a haystack of content. If a user finds themselves completing this same search over and over again, you can actually save these search parameters for one-click access. In the example shown, let's imagine a winemaker about to release a new blend. I can create a new query that will show me the results of every piece of content associated with the particular grapes in my blend. But now let's think about how long that process would take without CatDV, especially if you had multiple storage devices being managed by different people with different naming conventions. So I want to take that concept and kind of expand it to other real-world examples. In the NFL, a team might want to see a highlight reel of every touchdown thrown by their current quarterback. An auto manufacturer can use this functionality to quickly see all of their current advertisement materials for a particular class of vehicles. Or an editor might want to find a sunset shot from a particular location in the globe. This is where CatDV becomes a tool that works for you and your particular workflow. Now on to the CatDV web client. This is what's going to give my users access to their storage devices and their content through a web browser. It allows me to search and preview clips, even if they're housed across multiple storage devices. You can even tag and edit all through a web browser. So being able to tag and preview content on my iPad sitting at Starbucks is not only cool, but it makes me much more efficient. Also, when we're talking about the CatDV server products, I can also disattach from my server and work locally on my machine. When I am done working, I can basically just push all of my changes back up to and update my, my database on my server. This allows me to do remote shoots much more easily and efficiently, and I can, tag my content as it's coming in for to push it up later to my server. While the web client is extremely robust, some users came back saying they wanted even more functionality outside of their LAN. The latest server update now allows for the use of HTTP streaming server to connect my proxies to the installed client software over the LAN. So this is a great way to give access and searchability to remote employees, vendors, clients, and freelance crews, and not limit their interaction with that content. CatDV's rich feature set allows for client machines of all types to connect to their storage in meaningful ways. Being able to see your files is one thing, but CatDV enables you to manipulate your content in edit suites, remote locations, and beyond, all while managing your storage initiatives. Now we're going to get into the protection side of things of how CatDV is going to manage your storage. When we're thinking about protecting your content, archiving systems play a vital role. With traditional archiving, there has always been an issue of finding what was actually archived and what wasn't, let alone just finding the correct driver tape to restore. With CatDV's archive option and the use of proxies, I can offload my high-res files to supported LTO devices or to disk, and I can actually take that archive offline. CatDV still retains the previewable proxy along with all of the file attributes. Now I have the ability to search and preview a tape that's sitting on my shelf. In my own personal use of CatDV, I was able to create proxies of my files that sat on FireWire drives on my desk. Now I can search my drive's contents without even mounting the drive. When I find what I need, CatDV tells me exactly which drive to mount so I can restore the high-res simply and easily. The time saving here is actually staggering compared to my old workflow. My old workflow consisted of having some sort of date range for my drives, at which point I would mount hopefully the correct one. I'd start digging into the file trees and pray I was consistent with my naming conventions. So don't get me wrong, I'm all for hope and prayer, but not when it comes to finding my important content. When users are able to preview and manipulate content regardless of the storage device that they are on, they're then able to start making much better informed decisions as to where my files should be living, thus managing my storage growth intelligently and effectively. I often use the analogy that your media files are like cars, and storage is parking lots. My SAN is my valet parking. I have immediate access at all times, and I'm willing to pay a premium for it. My NAS or my nearline is the hourly parking lot, which I can get to, but it's a bit further away, and it always seems overpriced. Now, my archival is that long-term parking lot. It might require me to take a bus over there to get my content, and an attendant might have to move a few parked cars that are in front of mine, but it is really cheap to leave my car there. And that's the same thing about how an archive system is going to handle my files. With CatDV, we can start to adopt practices to direct my content to the appropriate parking lot. And that can have huge financial implications. So CatDV is really going to give me the tools to be able to view all of my content on all of my devices and ultimately manage my storage growth and my costs. The CatDV Enterprise Server contains quite a few ways to protect your content. Administrators are able to set up user groups, roles, and permissions associated with them that can then be tied to user accounts. So the newest release also supports LDAP and Active Directory authentication. If you're in a business that is already using LDAP and Active Directory, we can use CatDV as a port through those permissions. CatDV is also extremely useful for sharing content between multiple departments, outside vendors, and even customers. With its extensive security, you can make sure that people can only see what has been determined that they should have access to. Beyond that, CatDV has terrific logging and reporting. So at the end of the day, I can go back in as an administrator and see who has done what inside of the system. I can see who connected and exactly what they did inside of CatDV. So if any security concerns arise, I always have that reporting functionality as well. With that, I'd like to recap kind of the main points that we covered, which can be found here on this table. We discussed how CatDV can manage your storage devices through media search paths, its ability to work with and create proxies, as well as automation through the worker node. Users can access storage devices efficiently through robust search capabilities, web browser clients, and streaming proxies. And finally, content can be protected through proper use of archiving, user access controls, and reporting capabilities. Today, we've just scratched the surface as to the functionality of CatDV. It's an
Okay, thanks, Matt and Jeremy. We're basically at the end of all the questions that are able to be answered without you digging in further. So
awesome. Well, Jeremy and Laura, thank you guys very much. And to all the attendees, I appreciate all of your time. If you have further questions later, feel free to hit us up at JB&A.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks.